Good evening, everyone. My name is Art Whitman. I'd like to call this meeting of the Shaftsbury Select Board to order on Monday, July 17th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. First order of business, is there anything on the agenda that someone has a conflict of interest in?
No.
I don't have any minutes.
I guess I thought I hit the send button. I guess I didn't, so I guess I'll do it next time.
I didn't receive any.
No, really? Okay. Well,
We'll get them next time.
yeah.
I do have some warrants. I have a payroll warrant. Let's see. Payroll warrant number 2 for $4,250.
No, it can't be a payroll warrant.
Oh.
What is that?
I'm sorry, it's a check warrant.
That's the stipends for everyone. Select board,
Okay, so-
DRB, and everything.
This is our pay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Finally.
Okay, so I have check warrant number 2. I'm sorry about that. I thought it was payroll. So, for $4,250.
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Mike. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. 500.
Oh, the cats will eat tonight.
It's about all that'll be fed on that check.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have check warrant number 3 for $335,559.13.
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Mike. Items over $1,000. Aflac, $1,015. Bennington Tire Corporation, $2,648. GA Bove Fuel, $1,074. Innovative Surface Solutions, $5,447. That's our chloride. Matt Morris, Howard Park, and this is not a final payment. Is that not right?
Yeah, that's a partial payment,
Partial payment, $12,000.
and that's all grant reimbursable.
Okay, North Bennington Water Department, this is for the water for the entire town, $79,488.50. RCS Consulting, $1,055. Vermont League of Cities and Towns, $5,844. Did you say Weaver?
Weaver should be on the back there.
I was going to say, yep, Weaver. Another big one. $211,373 for Weaver, and that is a final payment.
That's the final payment, and 80% of that's refundable by grant.
Okay. And the last one is wholesale distributors, $3,220.
And I'll affect that to 90% of Weaver.
90%.
This is a Schluchter's grant, is reimbursable.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. 500. Announcements? Is there any special announcements?
No.
Site visit open to the public? Or?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's kind of a big one. Yeah, the PUC site hearing is this Friday at 2 p.m. The full schedule will be on our webpage. The schedule for the property tour was appealed by some of the interveners, and I haven't seen the final schedule yet. But most definitely, the public hearing at Mount Anthony will take place at 6 p.m. on Friday night. There's information on the town webpage on both those events, and once I get a finalized schedule for the in-person up on Holy Smoke Road, that'll go on the webpage too.
There's a specific parking spot?
Specific parking, there's maps, there's everything. It was all filed. We agreed with it last Monday, and some point during the day, there was an objection to it, and I haven't gotten an outcome of that. I do know that everybody expects to be there. Whatever the objection was is going to be remedied, and I'll get the information out. Hopefully I'll hear something tomorrow. It's also unfortunately going to rain, which might modify some of the things that they'll be able to do up there. Because it's, not improved land, and they can't have a lot of people walking around at their risk up there. But the meeting at night is definitely going on.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock at Mount Anthony.
And at 7 o'clock is the...
It's 6 o'clock. They will present, they being the developers, make a general presentation, very similar to what went on at the school. Very similar to what went on at the school. At 7 o'clock, it'll be public comment period. The PUC does not respond, but they'll take everyone's comments. Again, very similar to what we did at the school. So.
Can I just ask, I don't remember, was it Mount Anthony Middle School?
High school.
High school.
Okay.
Thank you. I keep forgetting the both. The same, yeah. Thank you. And all it will be on the website, and like I said, if I get a final thing tomorrow, I'll put that on the webpage also.
Okay.
It also goes to Front Porch Forum and Facebook, our Facebook page too.
Any other announcements? Okay. Public comments. We have someone here.
I'm here to learn more about the sheriff contract.
Okay.
Sure.
That's coming
Well,
up. So.
there's two topics here. You want to talk about the speeding in Hawks Avenue and that, and correct? You're not specifically talking about the sheriff's contract.
Actually, I have.
Okay. You don't want to talk about the speeding on Hawks?
Well, we could.
Because they're two different topics, but, okay, we'll wait to do it all at the same time.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Okay. I'm going to speed through my usual reports because I've got some other business that's important. But if we could look at the cash flow for June, which we never saw the completed one, so that shows you for the end of the fiscal year where things stand.
There we go.
There are two. So there's what? This is the right one, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think we already talked about a lot of that stuff that came in. That educational tax reconciliation is the big one. And that interfund transfer, as I always say, that's just when you write checks that are coded on something other than the general fund. I need to get that money back to the general fund. So that's for the end of the year. We had zero money due to or from the general fund. So we ended the year clean. If we could see the bottom half of that. So you see, as of our cash balance is, I like to see it higher than that.
Yeah.
So let's go down to the bottom. This is a snapshot of how we ended the year. You can see it. Dave has worked his usual magic with the budget. It doesn't get much closer than that.
Wow.
Those numbers will be adjusted once we have the auditors come in, because there are both revenue and expenditures will probably go up a little bit because of things that happened in the calendar month of July are actually supposed to have happened in June. There's some delinquent tax in there on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, there's a bunch of things, part of payrolls
Yeah.
and lots of things that have to get back in the right year. But, so both those numbers will probably go up a tiny bit, but boy, that's a pretty good end of year look. We're getting used to those, but Dave makes it look easy. We look at the reserve accounts for June 30th. I'll just zip through this. That's basically, you're just seeing all of those interfund transfers is what you're mostly seeing, except for the 260 line where you're seeing all of the water payments that came in. The 29,000 is water payments. The 45,000 is expenditures, whatever that was, I don't remember. Just paying for the water, I think. Look down at the bottom, even more, a tiny bit more. There's a really interesting number there. If you look at the interest, I don't know why our interest bounces around so much. This is usually about $145. The bank just keeps changing how they're allocating things, and I don't want to call it to their attention because I like 2,000 better than 175, but I don't know what's going on.
It just shows up in the...
Yeah, I just say thank you, or... It's nice, though. I like it. I'll take it. Let's look at the cash flow for mid-July. I'll zip through this. We got highway state aid today. That also just magically appears, poof. And another interfund transfer. So our cash position now, if you go down a little bit to the bottom half, it's actually a little bit higher than it was just 2 weeks ago. We're going to talk about the tax anticipation note, but if it stays around that level, we might not have to do a draw. You just signed a warrant for over $300,000, but a lot of that is going to be ultimately out of the reserve accounts. So that's not going to bring down our cash balance all that much, but especially with all of other towns are being socked by unexpected charges related to the weather. We don't want to play games with our cash balance this time of year. So that brings me to the tax anticipation note, which I don't know if you all know about it. We have not done these in a couple of years, so Naomi and Martha might not know about them. But this time of year, we sometimes have to get a line of credit just to pay our bills before the tax money starts rolling. And so I'm going to have you sign in a few different places. It's very repetitious. The first one is just saying you promise to pay it back. So I'll send that around, and you can be signing it while I continue to talk.
I think we need to make a motion.
You can make a motion just to accept maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need a motion to
Enter into...
the tax anticipation note from what bank? Merchants?
M&T.
M&T, right.
M&T, okay.
Yeah, for a line of credit of $300,000.
$300,000, okay. So I entertain a motion.
Sure, I can make a motion to enter into a tax anticipation note of $300,000 from M&T Bank.
Second. We have a motion, second by Naomi. Any discussion? Okay. So this is, we're just signing that we promise to pay
Yeah,
it
you're
back.
going to have to sign in 3 places. One of them, I think the one you have, is
Okay.
just saying that you will pay it back. The next one is saying that you'll take it out in the first place. And it's sort of backwards. And the third one is all of the rules about no arbitration, and we're not using this money to pay off other debts, that sort of thing. You can read through it if you want to. It's standard language that you have always signed in the past. So I leave that to you, whether you feel it needs to be read into the record, or we could just, there's 2 more
Can we vote
places.
on the motion, though, or do we need to?
Oh,
Or do we do this under
You
discussion?
should probably vote on it.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I
You guys
got...
are the experts.
Here, I'm the one that make the motion. I never passed it. So, no other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried, 500.
It's the heat and the smog.
Yeah, and the prednisone. Marlene, I'm going to need you to witness too, but we can do that tomorrow, I think, before I mail it out.
I'm witnessing now, I'd sign it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. These don't need your signature.
There's those two.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll just put-
These are together, I think. And that's-
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you. So the other variable here is the timing of draws is also dependent on whether we start getting tax money in. So to that end, we need to pass a tax rate.
Right.
And then I expect, all the pieces of the puzzle are in place, so I should be able to start printing and mailing tax bills pretty soon. We're actually a couple of weeks ahead of last year.
Yeah.
I know, it's good. So the municipal tax rate, I have calculated, and I would like you to approve tonight, is .5137. That's including both the local, the straight tax rate plus the local agreement portion. Let's see, what was it last year? Forgot all that. Last year, it was, the combined amount was .4823. So this year, it's going up to .5137, which is, I believe, less than the rate of inflation, quite a bit less than the rate of inflation. So do you make a motion about adopt, and then I have some notes to give
So
about
I'll
it.
make a motion to approve the tax rate at 5137.
51137.
Right. Point.
.5137.
.5137, that's per $100 of assessed
Right.
value.
So I have a motion. Was there a second?
Good second.
Second by Mike. Any discussion? Did you want to?
I've got a couple of notes I wanted to say.
Okay, and then we'll vote on it.
Yeah. So the local agreement rate is lower this year because one of the primary drivers of it is the town in past years has taken on itself paying the Grange's two properties, the Grange and the Community Hall. The Grange is not included this year because they didn't get their paperwork in. So that brought down the local agreement rate. And this is kind of only affects 7 residents, but it's also should be lower than it is because 7 vets did not get their homestead declarations in. So we are assuming their education tax at the higher non-homestead rate, even though they can't qualify for the exemption at all if they are not homestead. So I'm going to write personal letters and hope that I'll open them
Yeah.
for them to get their homestead declarations in because it's such an expensive mistake to make, and we have I think every year I've been doing this, we've had vets who have paid too much money, and I hate to see that happen. And you wait too late and there's nothing that can be done. So I will do everything I can to take care of that. But what that means is that if they do all get their paperwork in, it's going to mean that we're paying slightly higher in the local agreement than we should be, but that's going to come out in the wash. I also wanted to say that compared to last year, based on a $200,000 assessed value, all else being equal, meaning the state payment would be unaffected by this calculation, Shaftsbury homesteaders will just be paying on $200,000 of value, $42.60 more. So it's really, you can see it's quite flat with last year. Non-homesteaders, this is including the education portion, non-homesteaders will be paying $292.20 more. Shaftsbury ID homesteaders, so that's the little portion that pays their taxes in North Bennington, they're actually getting a break of $124 less than last year. But non-homesteaders in that independent district will be paying $243.20 more. So really very, very flat. Any questions about any of that?
No.
Okay.
Do we know how much money we're losing for tax money from District 1?
How much we lose?
Yeah.
You mean if they
How
were
much-
paying
yeah, if they were
education
paying,
tax?
yeah.
I could do that calculation. I don't
Yeah.
have it off the, no, I have never done
Could you
it.
do that?
I mean, it's something that's been looked at, and
I know.
It would be nice-
We're locked in the agreement.
it is, and
Yeah.
it's been a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look.
Just let people know.
It's not exactly, I mean, I understand your
Yeah,
question you're
yeah,
asking. It's,
yeah.
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 Yeah, I can
Okay,
I can
that'd
look
be
at that.
great. Thank you.
But it's gonna rile people up, and it's.
I know, on purpose.
No
On purpose.
practical.
I just, every once in a while, just
Okay,
it's a
sure.
crawl in my throat.
I will prepare that for next time.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. We had some, is there any more discussion?
No.
Any more discussion? Okay. So all those in favor of the tax rate at being .5137, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. So carried. 500. Thank you
Good.
very much, Mel.
Oh, one other thing, I'm going to be gone all next week, so if you need tax bills, please get those requests to me before Friday, because you'll be probably out of luck otherwise. But I will be back in the office, I believe, a week from Friday.
Okay.
Driving to Chicago.
Going on vacation?
Yeah,
Good. Have fun.
driving to Chicago.
Long trip.
Yeah. I hope the air will not still be yellow.
Yeah.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you.
Next on the agenda is the town charter preservation. At last meeting, it was kind of brought to our attention that the charter is safe in the vault down there, but some people thought that maybe it should be refreshed and maybe even preserved even more with special glass and so on and so forth. So we decided we would bring it up at this meeting. So,
Yes.
Marlene,
And,
I want everybody to understand that the town clerk is totally responsible for, and the only one responsible for town documents. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So I think Martha has seen this in person. I think Naomi maybe is the only one at this point who has not. But you're welcome to come in at any time and take a peek at it.
Thank you, I will do that.
So this has been in our vault for quite some time, and it really should be preserved. If you look at the other side, you'll see when they take this out of the glass, this is going to be very delicate. It's very dry. It looks like it could crumble. But what CoFile would do, I'd like to send this to CoFile of State Vermont. What they would do is they would flatten the document as needed, deacidify the pages, and I'm reading this from an email they sent me, deacidify the pages to prevent further deterioration. And they would mend the document as they are able to. So we could make sure this glass is okay. If not, I'm sure they have glass
Sure.
that they could put in there.
Yeah.
I went back and forth with her today because I didn't believe the price. But it should be around $1,000 to pick it up, to preserve it, and to make a nice color copy of each side on archival paper so that we can actually display those.
That'd be great.
And keep the original in the document,
Yeah.
in the vault where it's safe. So it was a lot less expensive. I thought we were talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But it's not. And since it was so good, I thought
Yeah.
we could talk about this. This has been on display in my office for quite some time, but this is the original deed to Cole Hall from the Cole family.
Wow.
And what I would love to do is have this preserved.
Sure.
Make a copy of this, and then we could put actually, Bob Holmes made this. It's a two-sided frame. It's really cool. And I would love to be able to put this out in the public area. Right now, it's in my office, but it's kind of hidden. So I'd love the original preserved put back in the vault, and then this out where people can look at it.
Wow.
Excellent.
Because it's the town's,
Sure.
and I'd like to have people be able to see it.
Right.
I don't know, it would be less than this because it's smaller.
All men of these presentations. Yeah.
What's the date on that one?
This is, okay, I should have checked that before. 1895.
Wow.
The 13th day of September.
Huh.
So it's a really cool document.
Yeah.
And I would like to have people be able to see it.
Sure.
Okay.
So, but we have to keep these very safe too at the same time.
Good.
So, you've heard the presentation, entertain a motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion to enter into a contract with the company's name, Co-File, to preserve our important documents.
And they will pick these up.
Oh, good.
So it would be less expensive to send them both at the same time because it's the same price.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ship these anywhere, ever.
No.
I would drive them, or they would pick them up.
Sure.
They would pick them up, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
We have a motion,
Second.
second by Tony. Any discussion? Nope. Okay.
It's excellent work. Yeah, and a great deal.
Yeah.
Very good.
And thank you, Marlene, for being the custodian of these pieces
Yes.
of our heritage.
You're very welcome. It's
So-
my pleasure.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Bye.
Opposed? So carried, 500.
I'm going to get these stuff out of your way then.
I'll take a picture of this one.
Absolutely.
I should have done this before. Is it glare? Oh, well.
It really is such an incredible document. If you want to take a picture of this one.
Dave, will you send a message to Carl Corman, who was the one who instigated us kind of chatting about this, just to let him know that this is in progress?
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, not getting it done?
Yeah. If you hear me fall.
Yeah.
don't drop them now.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next on the agenda is proposed goldstone architecture for Cole Hall.
Right. So we went to request for proposals a few months ago. This all comes out of the ARPA money, and we're looking to make Cole Hall ADA compliant as a primary goal, and redoing downstairs to make it more functional secondary. We also have money coming in to replace the entire heating system in a state grant. So what we have here is the proposal for architectural services from Goldstone. When we first looked at this a couple of years ago, putting an elevator on the exterior of the building would have cost about $450,000. Now it looks like it's going to cost close to $1 million. So what we're, in speaking with them and with Jack and going over this stuff, what we want to agree to tonight is an expenditure of $16,505 to do a pre-design investigation into what's possible, which includes getting an exemption from the state to put in a LULA, which is a limited use, limited access elevator. Those aren't allowed in municipal buildings unless there's a hardship, and I think we can kind of show a hardship here. And it would also bring us into the schematic design phase once we agree to what the best route is. But we need to move it a little bit to 16,000. We'll get it moved because we're going to have some lengthy discussions on how to meet the ADA requirements, given the extraordinary expense of elevator systems. It's amazing the huge increase in only a few years.
Yeah.
So, but I think that kind of plays into our favor. A LULA is far less expensive. but we still have to pick the location, which would probably still be out this door, and how we modify that to fit into downstairs. And that'll give us the basis to start. And then we can start getting into redesigning downstairs, the whole list of other parts of this, which would be the design development phase, construction documents and all that. But we really have to get this exploratory part out of the way. Once we get a basic schematic design and all agree to what it is we're going to go for, then we can go for the appeal to the state to waive the requirement for the elevator. And it may just, as we proceed, it may just turn out that either option is so expensive that we're going to have to look for Plan B, which is somehow modifying the front to not destroy the integrity of this building, which is the key factor here, to build some kind of ramp with some small lift in here, which is really not the best way to do it at all.
Right.
But we got to get going to see where we're going, unfortunately. This construction expenses are just outrageous. They really are. So I'd like permission from the board to sign this on behalf of the board and start getting to work with Goldstone. We'll have the meetings with the building committee and see where it takes us.
Okay, I can make a motion to authorize Dave to sign the proposal from Goldstone Architects vis-a-vis the
I'll second.
ADA.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Tony. Any discussion? It's all needed, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried, 5-0-0. Okay, Dave.
Okay, then we'll go ahead with that.
Yep.
Thank you. Get that going.
Okay, sheriff's contract. In the budget, we have an appropriated amount for the sheriff's contract. We have entered into the contract with the sheriff, but I think it's important that the board says, yes, we are going to enter into a contract, because at town meeting, the budget was approved with that amount in there, but we are entered into a contract. I just want the board, that it's approved by the board.
Yeah, part of the backstory to this is the contract expires June 30th. About a week and a half before that, I got the proposed contract from the sheriff. It had new language in it specifying who was going to be liable for what. I objected to basically all the language in the paragraph. Took it to our attorney, and through negotiation with the sheriff's attorney and our attorney, the wording was changed to be very specific about what liabilities the town was taking on, what liabilities the sheriff was retaining. By the time that was done, it was June 30th at 4 in the afternoon, so the contract was signed just so we didn't lose service at midnight. So the contract is otherwise the same as it's always been, and it's we request services when we think they're needed in places, and like I said, since the new sheriff's in town, we've been very active with the sheriff, so it's working out very well.
I saw him on my way here.
Yeah, it's working out very well. We have a deputy dedicated to the town, which is the first time that's happened, and we're getting what we request done.
16 hours a week.
15.
15.
And they're getting close to making that. They are getting more deputies, and they're getting more inquiries to be deputies. So, like I said, when I first looked at this budget for this year, I wanted to move it up to 40 hours a week, but they hadn't been able to meet their staffing.
They couldn't even meet 10.
For several years they hadn't met it. So instead of raising taxes for something I can't spend it on, we just put it off. So if this year goes fine, at least the first 6 months, you can expect in next budget that I'll be coming back for the 40 hours a week, because to address 70 miles of roads. Plus, in the last 2 months since the new sheriff was sworn in, we've used the sheriffs on quite a number of other things.
Yeah.
And that took up quite a bit of the time, too. But it's worked out. There were a lot of other things going on that we weren't able to address before that we are now. So I think we're looking for a vote just to affirm the contract for this year.
Okay, I can make a motion to affirm the select board contract with the Benefit County Sheriff's Department for 2023. Is it fiscal 2023?
Fiscal 24.
Fiscal 24. Okay.
So moved.
It's a move by Mike, second by Tony. Any discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I would just like, Dave, if you could explain to us how the allocation of the deputy's time is done, because of course there's been a lot of concern about the speeding and all of that. So I think it'd be important for us to hear about how that gets decided week to week or month to month, or how does it get decided?
Sure, it basically comes up, and this is an example here. This is the latest bill from the Sheriff's Department, where it asked that they spend more time in Hawks and Grandview, and they spent 5% of the patrol month on Hawks and Grandview. And, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of time for 1% of the road coverage in the town. And that was also during a period where we had a very time-consuming legal issue with the vicious dog hearing, and I was kind of glad they were able to spend this amount of time. Everything they really requested, and during this period also, I requested that they increase patrols on East Road, which has a significantly higher speed problem, Myers Road, West Mountain Road, and all time has been spent on all those roads. So part of any contract with law enforcement, and this is what's good about our relationship with the new sheriff, you ask for things and you have discussions and things can be addressed. But in all my experience in law enforcement, you never say we're going to be here all the time or at this time or whatever, because it doesn't work that way. You address it as you can, and you also have to address the problems as they're analyzed. Now, Hawks specifically, I have 4 different studies that show the average speed on Hawks Avenue is 28 miles an hour. And I even had a 3-day survey done just because someone questioned the last one that was done last month, and it came up at 28 miles per hour again. So it means, the average speed on that road is 28 miles an hour. There's the outliers, of course. On every road, you're going to find someone who does 50, but they're in the vast minority. They all bubble around 30, 32, and you find that anywhere. To me, that's very, very standard. But to have an average speed of 28 miles an hour, when you have other roads with accident histories and things, you have to devote your limited resources to where they can be most effective. So that's really how it's done. And anything that comes up, I address with sometimes directly with our deputy, which is a nice thing to have now. That one person works here, essentially. And it's just an effective way of doing it. And Hawks came up, and it was addressed. And like I said, 5% of the patrol hours dedicated to that street is, I think that's a pretty good average for a street that's not even, a quarter mile long. And, well, maybe a little over a quarter mile because it was Grandview and Hawks. He did them both, so, But they're there, but, with sheriffs working on the contract 15 hours a week, maximum, the chances of anyone actually seeing the sheriff on the street is not, there's just not 70 miles of road and one guy is difficult. But, I see them because I'm around the roads everywhere. But if I was sitting in my house, where I sit in my house, I can see the main road in front of me and I could look out for hours and not see somebody. But it doesn't mean they're not, around the corner or down the street. So,
were there any summonses issued during those hours?
On those roads, no. I mean, in a road that averages 28, from personal experience, I can tell you're going to be hard-pressed to come up with a violation that isn't. And remember, radar isn't exact either. Being a former radar instructor, I got to tell you, you can't write like for 25. You have to have a much broader area because radar isn't always accurate. And whenever you have a car with a larger object behind it, it always tracks the larger object. So if a car is driving fast in front of a truck, it's reading the truck. Only laser can be used to focus in on one vehicle. And lasers are really expensive, so you only see some troopers with lasers. So, but, there are ways of addressing issues, and like I said, 5% on that area I thought was pretty good for the month.
Any consideration for
But
monitoring?
can I, we have a motion, and I'd like to discuss it,
Pardon me.
pass the motion, and then we'll.
Yeah, if we could do the, if that answered Naomi's question, we
Yeah,
could do
Naomi,
the contract, and then
is
we'd be
that
glad
okay?
to answer questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so is there any more discussion? So we have a motion and a second, went through a discussion. So all those in favor of ratifying the contract, say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried, 500. Yes, no.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to meet Jim Henderson on
Right.
Friday when he was removing the speed monitor. And we talked for about 20 minutes and learned about the 3 previous studies and the conclusions. I'll just share, while we were talking for about 20 minutes, no less than a dozen vehicles passed us or being parked by the monitor. And we both kind of shook our heads, agreeing that the limit was being exceeded. Whether it was at 28 miles an hour, seemingly it was greater than that. But obviously, the device has been used to provide the accurate information about speed. I'm told about length of vehicles as well. So, what I was starting to say when I interrupted was, it may be useful to consider Bank Street for monitoring. That may impact any excessive speeding on Hawks Avenue. It may slow people down if the sheriff's presence was greater, potentially, on Bank Street. People typically are turning onto Hawks Avenue from Bank Street. So it may be that we have to put the horse in the right place.
Well, I talked to Jim about that. I actually messed up his schedule by asking him to bump up and do Hawks.
Yeah.
He actually bumped, I think he was going to Sandgate. So he bumped that back for me. But I did talk to him about Banks, to do Banks eventually. So I think he mentioned that he spoke to you, so I think that'll be
Yeah, it was a great
on the list.
conversation.
Yeah.
I learned
Yeah.
a lot.
I'm curious too as to what the actual speed is there,
That's
that
all.
end of Banks.
They're coming down from New York at their speed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it actually is there.
And I've spoken previously, and others have as well, perhaps, about the traffic coming in from New York and then the traffic
Yeah.
coming out. And it's neighbors, people living further out on White Creek Road, going out to the Hollow.
Yep.
There's Shaftsbury residents, and then, the number of New York residents who commute, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Back and forth to work, to shop. So, that continues to be a concern.
Yeah.
Something that Jim had mentioned, and it's been brought up, maybe, the discussion of speed tables
Yeah.
has to be looked at.
The speed table is being investigated for Hawks, but I have to caution the big issue with that for Hawks is if, it's going to bang every time one of those trucks hit it. The trucks are going to make noise, especially if they're empty, even at 15 miles an hour. The average truck there is not out of any reasonable range. I followed a Paul Lynn's truck down there and must have been doing 15 miles an hour. Because for a driver, there's no point in banging through all those gears to gain any speed to come to a stop. Like literally, you turn on the street and you can see where you need to stop. They're somewhat louder, granted, but they'll be a little bit louder too if they hit a speed table in the middle of the block. So that's and it's something to take into consideration. But that actually is this all started from a grant proposal. So that's actually being investigated to how it could be, where it could be located. There's one street light, so it kind of has to be there because it has to be illuminated at night. So you just can't ignore the fact that it's going to make noise. I don't know if that's going to make people happier than anything else because even cars that hit it are going to make noise. So, It's something to weigh off in the thinking about it, because it is a consideration. And it's been a truck through route from New York State since, I only went back in records to the early 60s. Town Highway 3 is White Creek Road and Hawks Avenue to 67, and it has been designated that and uses that for the last 70 years. And I'm sure if I kept going back, because the records go back to like 1930, that it's always been the same. So just trying to address what's there. That's why we proposed sidewalks originally, was to make it safer with a sidewalk. But trying to work in a compromise somewhere in there would be a little bit more difficult. And even, it's such a short stretch of road, and with the average speed as low as it is, and the fact that you can see a police car the second you turn onto the road, it makes it all kind of difficult. I don't think you're getting that much speeding going on there. You're always going to have the outlier. You're always going to have the outlier. And you have like these things, which I was looking at, these portable speed signs. I get a little back and forth on these. I mean, I started with these like 30 years ago, and sometimes they work, other times they turn into who can drive at it fastest.
Jim spoke to that.
Yeah, so I've always been a little bit mixed about them, especially, people get used to them and then it's just like whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing, people drive, and they always think to everybody in the speed limit. Well, next time you're driving along, look down at your speedometer, because you'll always gravitate to a certain speed you feel comfortable at. And in engineering, it's like the 85th percentile should be the speed limit. But where I'm from, everything was 25 and nobody did 25, because the 85th percentile was always, in these studies we did, 35 or 36, 34, because that's where everybody was comfortable at. So, it's conditioning or it's buckets of tickets. That's what it comes down to. And every time we were asked to do buckets of tickets, it was usually people in the neighborhood who no longer wanted us to do buckets of tickets. Because people tend to speed from, they're going through the same town, the same neighborhood. So it's, hopefully there's educational things we can do, and the speed table might work. But again, you're talking about, for Hawks, you're talking about the outliers. There was one car up there that was, I think it was 65. It didn't know what time of day it was, probably middle of the night. But there's little you can do about that, honestly, unless somebody just parked there for 24 hours, 7 days a week,
Well, again, I know from my past observation of having a sheriff on Bank Street, close to Dunham Avenue, very, very obvious.
Yep.
Whoever was coming up on his rear slowed down.
Yep.
Certainly, people were coming, facing the vehicle.
Yep.
Was slowing down.
Yeah.
Can't be there all the time, some of the time.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to get at. And that's really why I wanted more hours in this year's budget. But under the last regime, I doubted we were actually going to get the time. I would just be taxing people and having a huge surplus at the end of the year. Because we budgeted for the 40 hours, it would have been close to $100,000, and we might spend 20,000 of it. And that's not fair. We'll see. I think they're going to meet their targets this year, and I think we should up it, because if we could spend a little bit more time, that's when you start having an effect. People have to feel the possibility of, an enforcement method to get them to really react. And the troopers don't have, there's troopers around, but they have so many things to do. We can only contract so many hours with the sheriff. So I know Pownell up there is a great deal this year. And if it works out, then we can consider it for next year.
So this new contract is for 15?
Yes.
Where it was 10?
It was 15. Yeah, we just left it the same.
We contracted with 15 last year, and a lot of times we couldn't even get 10. That's why.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So same with that.
And it had been higher for a couple of years, but it was never getting done.
Right.
So it was like, what's the point? We're just taxing and having this surplus.
Yeah, I think we kept lowering it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Now, I know Naomi had asked about when patrols might occur or how they're allocated. Pownell was asking the sheriff to work out of their normal day, which apparently is 7 to 3, work more hours, so they have more hours available.
Ours do not work that way.
Day, earlier in the morning,
Yeah.
later in the afternoon, or early evening.
Yeah. Ours don't work that way. Because our deputy works in several different towns, he arrives at different times, but more specifically, and in all this, it's addressed on a whole bunch of streets, East Road and, that he's been there. So he's been getting to everywhere that I've asked for, not to mention, like I said, a long amount of time that had to be spent on 2 other events that took place in town. We're getting it covered, but we don't have a 7 to 3 thing. He could be here at 6 at night, he can be here on Saturday, he can be here. If we had more time, if it was 40 hours, then you'd want to be like, we're not hiring him to be 7 to 3, like the guy who works at the school. We're not hiring him to be 7 to 3, Monday through Friday. We want 40 patrol hours spread, and, we don't have 24/7 coverage, so this guy has to be the day shift, the night shift, and everything else, and kind of bounce around. But it's part of the openness of the contract that we can discuss issues with it and get things devoted to what we need. I mean, for the thing we were doing, we had people here at night frequently, so it does work out. We need more time. If they can give us more next year, it'll be good.
Is it possible to, again, people don't respect speed limit signs, but other signage that we see elsewhere, slow down, or some language that it's all along the road becomes maybe visually annoying, but we have a little graining character there at the corner of Bucks and Bank with slow on it. Other residents in the village, have these signs out. I don't know if there's any value in trying to just put that message out along these streets.
Well, you get to sign pollution and sign ignoring at some point when you just don't pay attention to slow and this and that. And everything has to be done in accordance with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the MUTCD, and all those little green things and that you see, they're just private things that don't mean anything, and I don't know how much people pay attention to those anymore, because when they first came out, 20, 30 years ago, they were kind of novel. Now you just kind of see them. That's what happens with the fixed speed signs. As people look at it, it's like, okay. We used to move ours, and we used to put it in the road, and then after it was up for a while, you'd go down the road a mile, and people would go flying by, and they'd say, well, you're speeding. And you go, yeah, I saw it on the sign up there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. That was like your warning, and, honestly, if we can pick up the patrol in the next couple of years, that'll tamp down speeds. That's really what works. Everybody knows what the speed limits are. And again, for the strict 25, everyone just look down at your speedometer when you're driving. You'd be surprised. You gravitate to what's comfortable for you. And it's rarely 25 because it's very slow. Not saying that you shouldn't drive 25 and, where it is, but this kind of proves that out because everybody's, in that little bubble.
I think it'll hearten our neighbors on Hawks Avenue and on Bank Street if we do see a share a few times.
Yeah.
Might be early in the morning, could be a good day.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, at 5% for the minimal hours we have and the minimal length of those 2 streets, it's a pretty good response rate. It's a total of 5% of his time, so in a busy month. So that's pretty good. Now, maybe it'll be a little bit more. Can't really say, because I am asking him to do a lot of other roads where we have accidents and rollovers and things that,
I've driven on East Road.
Yeah.
And passed a few times.
Yeah. So I had someone stop me when I was out there looking at a road condition who was very upset that the increase in speed on the Barrington side was turned down. and they drive 50 miles an hour on East Road every day, and it's perfectly safe. And I'm like, okay, I don't know.
Until they roll over.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a DPW report?
Yes, I do. It's on my phone. Hold on a second. Let's see. Wrong phone. Sorry. Need my glasses to do this. Okay, so from the DPW report this week, for the next 2 weeks, they're going to continue working on Buck Hill Road. That will be paved in August, so there's a lot of ditching to do, culvert replacements. So we're kind of running low on time to get all that ready. There's a lot of culverts on that road. Roadside mowing is continuing on Maple Hill, Cider Mill, and Hidden Valley in the next 2 weeks. And that's going around. It's been a little slow, but it's a new machine. There's been a bit of a learning curve with it. We replaced the tires, changed the blades to work better, everything new. But it's a great machine, and we're going to have it for years, so it'll be fine. Grading on East Road and Maple Hill. We started the Village Green in the rear here. We're going to topsoil and gravel the parking lot and put a fence up probably next week. There was a hazard tree on Murphy Hill that came down on Monday. And I asked Mike up to Tinkham and Murphy Hill last week where we had a wacky little intersection with the 2 yield signs and the stop sign. And so I took him up, and what I asked him to do is cut back from the Tinkham side. I parked my car down around 200 feet. If you do the calculations, the car doing 35 is traveling like 50 feet a second, and perception time and everything. So we're going to cut back the trees to 300 feet down the road, and that'll bring you to where you're actually at the yield sign. You can actually see 310 feet down Maple Hill, and you can see a car with my profile at the edge of it. So it'll increase the sight distance a great deal and should make it a lot safer. I asked for some recommendations from some other organizations, and we're like, well, we could level the hill and things like that. And I'm like, well, that seems extreme. Maybe I'll just get a chainsaw. So we're just going to improve the sight line there. They're mostly scrub trees anyway. But they're in the town right away. So we'll cut them back, cut some brush back, and it'll really improve the sight line a great deal. On a temporary emergency basis, we're putting the yield sign back up because it was never approved. But there's a way to do that, and we'll also be to address an issue. Let's see, regular park mowing and maintenance. And Mike and I have been talking about the next truck, even though we don't have the one that we ordered like 2 years ago. But we need a tandem, and the state contract is for internationals with Viking bodies, which is what we always buy. You can't beat the state bid because no one's allowed to underbid it. So what we're doing is he spoke to Delores, and we will probably just be doing the paperwork and bringing it in the next meeting to get the board's approval to enter into contract on the state bid to buy the next tandem, which won't be here for like 2 years. But if we don't order it soon, the lead time is unbelievable. It's well over $200,000 too. But we're putting money away, so we'll have the money to buy it.
I guess, does that mean that we will be buying it through the state? What the state sets up the specs and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, and you'll just be buying it directly from International through the state contract.
Through a state contract?
Yeah, which means it'll go to Delores as a local dealer.
To be serviced for...
Yeah.
Yeah, that type of thing. But we really aren't buying it.
We're not buying it from the state. It's just that International and Viking won the state bid for this type of truck, and we're all entitled to get the same package.
Okay.
And the package is almost identical to what we ordinarily buy anyway. Sure. So to go out the bid, it's not. An individual dealer can't go lower than what the state bid is. So we're just.
Okay.
There's no point. Mike and I talked about looking at other brands and things, but all the dealerships are so far away. it really becomes a problem. I mean, they're very far away, all these dealers. Spending, a day driving a truck somewhere and bringing a guy back to do the same thing the next day. So they'll be up at the next meeting.
Okay. That it?
That's it for the DPW.
Okay. So, we need an explanation on this resolution, or
Validation resolution,
Phase 1.
Phase 1 water pipeline replacement.
Yeah,
Okay, so back when we were going through all the process for the voting back in the fall and the winter, there was a bit of a miscommunication over we were getting a loan from the state or a bond from the Vermont Bond Bank. The Vermont Bond Bank finances the thing, gives the money to the state and gives it to us. But we did everything correctly except it was supposed to be a newspaper ad, which we didn't do because that's not required if we're getting a loan from the state. So in consultation with our attorneys, Pipper, Primer, and somebody, they drafted this, which is common resolution to address these kinds of issues with this. And all it says is that all the standards for applying for the bond, the vote was taken and everything was correct, except for this one issue that the board corrects here by approving this resolution, basically attesting to the fact that a town meeting was held, town meeting was warned, public vote was taken, public vote was affirmative, and well, that's it really.
okay.
Just taking it.
So, do you have to sign it, or we? Or
Nobody signs it.
Nobody signs it.
We need a vote of the board to approve the validation resolution Phase 1 water pipeline replacement. And then Marlene attests to that vote was taken and the results of the vote, and I just send it in to the people giving us the loan, not the bond bank. Don't ask me, but that's the way it is.
Somebody dare repeat all that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll make the motion, but I'd like a motion to approve the validation resolution for the water bond.
Phase 1.
Phase 1.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Mike, second by Tony. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't, there through the original part.
Well,
Okay,
yeah, right.
all right.
Yeah,
So that's approved 401.
401, yep.
Okay? Thank you.
One more.
All right?
Yep, we have one more though. The,
Oh, yes. Would you-
not that one, the other one. Let's do the other one on the water line first.
Validation, no, it's this one.
No, that's CAI.
Oh, this is the validation.
This we have is a declaration of official intent of the town of Shaftsbury to reimburse certain expenditures from proceeds of indebtedness. And I'll just read this out so everybody gets this. Whereas the town of Shaftsbury, Vermont, the issuer, intends to construct public water system improvements that were approved by the issuer at the annual meeting thereof held on March 7, 2023, and whereas the issuer expects to pay certain capital expenditures, the reimbursement expenditures, in connection with the project prior to the issuance of indebtedness for the purpose of financing costs associated with the project on a long-term basis. And whereas the issuer reasonably expects that for that part of the project consisting of design and construction costs, debt obligations in an amount not expected to exceed $1,708,080 will be issued, and that certain of the proceeds of such debt obligations will be used to reimburse the reimbursement expenditures. Whereas the issuer declares its reasonable official intent to reimburse prior expenditures for the above described part of the project with proceeds of a subsequent borrowing. In short, what this means is that we can pay bills and be reimbursed. The town can forward the money to pay bills that come up before we get the money for the loan. And the loan we can use for reimbursement. And the key thing here is that this is something, the issuer's debt obligations for the aforementioned purpose will not be privately activity bonds within the meaning of Section 141 of the Internal Revenue Code. And this is from our attorneys, which is why it's written like this. But it's really just to stay in line with certain federal regulations, because there's federal money involved with this. So it gives us formalized approval to cover our expenditures from the money we're borrowing, because otherwise we wouldn't have this money to do this. If that makes sense to everyone.
Okay. Require signatures?
And no, this doesn't get a signature either. It just requires a vote, and then Marlene will attest that it was done.
Not sure what words to say.
A motion to approve the declaration of official intent of the town of Shaftsbury to reimburse certain expenditures from proceeds of indebtedness.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. 500.
Okay, well, the legalese is out of the way now.
Okay, all the
guess.
legal stuff. Other business. Anybody have any other business?
Well, I'll just say I will be away from probably Friday until August 31st, all of next week.
Will you be at the walk around?
I may not be able to make that because something else has come up that family matter might have to take care of. But I'll be on vacation. I'll be out of the country, so I will not be
Good.
within range,
Okay.
specifically with my phone off.
Yes.
Did you say the entire month of August?
No, I wish.
Oh.
No, I'll be back July
Oh, I
31st.
thought you said August 31st. Oh.
Yeah, I wish it was August 31st. Just a week.
Okay. Review of action items? You've got everything here that you're
Yeah.
going to tell us. Marlene's going to attest to some of the
Well, then we'll
stuff.
attest to these. We've already discussed this, and she's seen them already.
She's going to take care of the
The
charter
Charter.
and that sort of stuff, okay?
I don't think there was any action items tonight. Well, I would say we can skip the executive session,
Yes,
too.
there's no...
There's nothing to say about it.
No news on the executive session. So.
Okay.
So, if nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn.
All right, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Mike, second by Tony. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Stay indoors.
Stay well.
Yeah, stay well.
Yeah, really.